Muriel Redbridge, unabridged, aka Monica Rosenbaum. In the interview for an August edition of the Radio Times in 1968, Miss Redbridge, when questioned about the rumored feud between renowned romantic novelists, notoriously quipped, "I always let cart before the hose." 2 months later, her publisher reluctantly published her only non-romantic novel, Castra Volonte. Misleadingly described by Mills and Boon as a romantic detective story, was universally ill-received by fans and press alike, lambasted by Woman's Weekly as having no coherent narrative, no characters, no plot to speak of, no romantic interest, no heroine, no hero, in fact nothing of any discernible interest to those lovers of any form of modern romantic literature. Similarly in Horse and Hounds, 2 shillings and sixpence could never recompense us for such abuse of the charitable intentions and nobles oblige of publishers, for such painful and unnecessary convolutions of the English language. But such was her perverse nature. She revelled in these criticisms, as she waspishly noted in her only Compressi Commentarius, how pedestrian their meanderings, how obvious their goals, how comfortable and effete the formulae of their meagre crimes, like the drawing rooms in which their plots are tediously unfolded, how linear the trajectories of their psychologies, how received the structuring of their minor wisdoms, how affirmed their fragile identities, how omnipresent the causal gods of their underlying patterns, and how unconsciously worshipped with every scraping orbit of their pre-Copernican ball points. What narrative content there was in the novel appears to have been merely thrown in as a cursory afterthought to frame what was to all effects and purposes an arbitrary series of clippings and quotes from innumerable sources. From little-known esoteric ancient texts to gossip columns, cereal carton labels to magazine advertisements, with little consistency or apparent structure. Which real and which invented seemed to have little importance to her. There were rumors that, having suffered a personal family tragedy, the experimental course of mood-adjusting medications she had undergone had adversely affected her capacity for rational thought. For the writing was indeed almost impossible to contextualize in any linear form, and sadly for her legions of fans it was the last work she ever published under her own name. In 1992, Virginia Stockdene published a paper throwing a new light on the work. In November 1362, the Hesperus, under the noses of court spies, the last of the treasure ships, a small, but flighty red-sailed sloop, having spent the week secretly loading cargo at Pontevedra by means of stout pitch-painted swimmers, breathing reeds and an underwater access, breaks, at the strike of 12 what is effectively an unspoken blockade, and escapes on a strong nor'wester, heading for England with a price on their heads. Within the hour the alert is sounded and 3 of Philip's warships set forth in heady pursuit. A few close calls, whizzing past tears, but soon, she is out of range of their cannon and in open seas. In 3 days they are off the coast of Brest. 30 miles behind them Captain Alfonso cannot see their sails against the looming black clouds and burgeoning winds, but can see their ship's lights disappear as they enter the English Channel, strokes his eyebrow in satisfaction. When in fact they have blacked out and are heading northwest with all speed to berth at St. Ives before the storm arrives. Smitty could smell a winter storm front approach in his bones after 25 years on the waves. They made good time and by dawn had rounded the toe of Penzance and were out of sight of Alfonso, who swore he made out a stricken sail heading towards Dover in a lightning flash and gale force winds.